The courtroom buzzed with whispers, the kind that cut sharper than words spoken aloud. At the center of it all sat a little girl, Emily, her feet dangling above the floor, her hands gripping the chair as if it were her lifeline. She lifted her chin, her voice trembling but clear enough to pierce through the noise. "My mom is a Navy SEAL." The silence that followed lasted no longer than a heartbeat before laughter erupted. Some chuckled under their breath, others shook their heads, and even the judge allowed himself a smirk. "A Navy SEAL," he repeated, his tone heavy with mockery. "Child, this is a courtroom, not a stage for fairy tales." Emily's lips pressed together, but her eyes never wavered. Behind those wide, tear-glossed eyes was a truth too heavy for her young shoulders to carry alone. She whispered again, softer this time, as if speaking more to herself than the crowd. "She told me to be brave." Emily had always lived in the shadows of sacrifice. Her childhood was filled not with lullabies and bedtime stories, but with the scent of gun oil on her mother's hands, the sound of boots by the door, and the lessons whispered late at night. Courage is standing when others laugh. Honor is silence when others shout. Strength is love you don't need to prove. These weren't just words to Emily, they were her compass, her shield. But today, in this courtroom, those words became a weapon against her. Her father stood on the other side, polished in his suit, sharp-eyed, flanked by a lawyer who smiled with calculated cruelty. "Your Honor," the lawyer began, addressing the judge, "we are witnessing a child's imagination run wild. Women are not Navy SEALs. The mother isn't here because she can't defend this lie. My client is the only stable parent." The judge leaned forward, his gaze narrowing. "Emily," he said, voice stern, "lying in court is a serious offense. Do you understand what that means?" The girl's tiny hands trembled, her heart pounding so loud she thought it might echo across the chamber. Yet she answered, "I'm not lying." And then the air shifted. Heavy wooden doors groaned open, breaking the rhythm of the lawyer's smug smile. The sound of synchronized boots echoed against marble floors. Every head turned. A line of figures entered the courtroom, uniformed, precise, their movements sharp and disciplined. At their front walked a woman whose presence silenced the room without a word. Emily's breath caught in her throat. "Mom," she whispered. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The insignia gleamed on her chest, the trident no one could mistake. Her gaze was steady, her stride unbroken, her authority undeniable. She was not a storybook hero. She was the truth Emily had carried alone until this moment. The judge's face drained of color, his smirk evaporating. The father's lawyer stumbled over his own papers. Even the father, so smug minutes ago, shifted uncomfortably in his seat, suddenly aware of the weight pressing down on the room. The woman stopped before her daughter, then turned toward the bench. Her voice was calm, but it carried through the silence like a blade cutting glass. A warrior does not brag about her battles, but when her child's honor is mocked, she will stand in any court, any place, to protect her. Emily's shoulders lifted with pride, her tears now glistening with joy instead of fear. The little girl the court had laughed at was suddenly the one teaching them all a lesson in truth. The judge swallowed hard, struggling for words. His earlier arrogance collapsed into humility. "I owe you and your daughter an apology," he said softly, almost ashamed. The courtroom shifted uneasily. The laughter that once filled it now, replaced by silence, heavy with regret. The SEAL units stood as still as statues, silent proof that Emily had never lied. Her father lowered his eyes, the ground beneath him suddenly unsteady. This was no longer just a custody battle, it was a revelation. Dignity had been questioned, but dignity had answered louder than mockery ever could. The ruling that day shifted in the mother's favor, but the greater victory was invisible to the law. Emily had learned that truth needs no defense louder than patience, and that silence, when rooted in honor, can roar louder than laughter. As they prepared to leave, the mother knelt to Emily's level, pressing her forehead gently to her daughter's. "Strength," she whispered, "is not found in the noise others make. It's in the courage to keep standing." Hand in hand, they walked out of that courtroom, the unit behind them, leaving an unshakable image in every witness's mind. What began as laughter ended as awe. What began as doubt ended as proof. And perhaps the deepest lesson was this: never dismiss the quiet truth of a child, for behind it may stand the footsteps of giants. So when the world mocks your truth, when it feels too heavy to carry alone, remember Emily. Remember her mother, and remember that silent strength often shouts the loudest of all. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs courage today. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that reveal unseen battles and quiet victories.